It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for Packers fans everywhere. And we're feeling, well, find out next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey, Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys actually kissed the magical 13.5-yard line, and the other guy will challenge you to a game of pinball anytime. And now, it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Happy new football year. Wayne Henderson here on your Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. We are back, baby. It's episode 153 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded March 22nd, 2018.
And I'm Troy Heinritz, excited to be with you once again, talking about so much news prior to the draft. This is the first time in the Packers Fan Podcast history we had to do an episode in the middle of March. It's amazing. We'll peek in on GM Brian Gutekunst, a.k.a. Goody, because I'm not saying that any more than I have to throughout the course of this season. Also, defensive coordinator Mike Pettine and how they're faring in their early days. Plus, we'll welcome tight end Jimmy Graham, Mohamed Wilkerson, and Deshaun Kaiser to the Packers Fan Podcast family.
And we bid a fond farewell to Jordy Nelson. It is a sad thing. We also have more speculations on Aaron Rodgers getting paid, and we have your awesome G-Force feedback.
Everything you need to know about this episode can be found on the website at PackersFanPodcast.com/153 or on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps. They're available for both iOS and Android. Make sure you download them today.
Or tomorrow if you're behind schedule.
It just depends on whether you're a free agent or not at this time of the year. This is new territory for us, Wayne.
You know, gone are the days of in Ted we trust and almost nothing happens. Now with Goody, everything's happening.
Oh my gosh. It's like left and right. I can't even keep up. It's like watching ping pong in the Olympics.
Yeah, and we made some moves. We missed some moves that I thought, with Goody now in charge, we're going to make a move on Mathau from Cardinals, but no.
Well, I think we have to skip the Goody and Pettine coming on and how they've been doing, because we can't really bury the headline. And the headline is, it was a sad day in Packer Nation as Jordy Nelson departed the team for the Raiders.
How shocked were you?
I would be lying to say that I probably was shocked a little bit. I thought Jordy would take the lower amount, to be quite honest. He'd be the Donald Driver, the sure-handed guy, have him come out of the slot, catch the third down, move the chains. I thought he was really going to be that kind of a player for the team. At the same time, with the weapons and the depth at wide receiver that Green Bay has, plus what they might be able to pick up in the draft and free agency, I knew that either Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb was going to be released this season. I just knew one of the two was going to go.
Right. And I didn't think it was going to be Jordy. I knew that he had hinted, about a year ago, that he might just have another year or two left in him. And so I thought, maybe, but really 95% of me was thinking, no, it's not going to be Jordy. Not Jordy. I guess football's a business, and the Raiders are basically picking up all sorts of Packers cast-offs and trying to rebuild the Packers out west.
Which is totally fine, because I like going to California from Chicago. It's really cold here and gray and nasty, so I'll be happy to cheer for Packers West.
There you go. Maybe even in the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Well, it was even funny. We were targeting the cornerback from the Colts, I believe it was. And sure enough, the Raiders snatched him up right from underneath our nose. So not only are they taking our players, but they're also taking the people we're targeting.
Yeah, they're trying to build something. Things are happening. They are getting ready in advance for Vegas. But Jordy, thanks for all your service, and good luck in Oakland and Vegas.
So Goody has just been on a tear. I mean, you talk about where things were with Ted Thompson and everybody complaining that we weren't aggressive enough in free agency. And then when we were aggressive, we had all these free agent busts. So far, Goody did, I think it's a B right now, maybe. I know people are still kind of upset about the Jordy situation and him leaving and stuff. But I mean, we kicked this thing off with a trade for Deshaun Kaiser and send Demarius Randall away. Do you think that had anything to do with Demaryius's kind of locker room antics last year, even though he turned up the heat towards the last half of the season?
I think it had to. It absolutely had to have played into that. And there's probably a lot more to that story than what we'll ever know.
I was just kind of shocked, actually, because, I mean, Demaryius was a first-round pick, and we know that Ted was always precious about his first-round picks and making sure that they decided to bloom and blossom like they should. So the fact that we're able to just throw away a first-round pick to another team like that really says something about Demarius Randall's either play or character or status, or Mike Pettine just came in and said, I'm got a whole new scheme up my sleeve, and therefore I am going to do things my way, and my way he has, because now Morgan Burnett is out. Saw that news break just was it yesterday?
The things are happening, and things are already changing and being molded to be his style. And I don't know what the behind the scenes things are, but we have to have hope, because after last year's pretty dismal defensive play, a lot of the time, Pattine's got to get things whipped into shape, and it's now or never.
I mean, I'm not so concerned that Morgan Burnett ended up leaving the team to go over to the Steelers, because we still have Josh Jones, who's clearly now the starter in that role, and he had some breakout moments last season. And you still have HaHa Clinton-Dix back there, who maybe took a step back a little bit, but now has to step back up again. But you also got Kentrell Bryce. So safety doesn't seem to be the concern. I'm really concerned at this point about the cornerback position, because you have Kevin King and Quentin Rollins is still in play. And then you have Dimitri Goodson, Pipkins, and Hawkins. I mean, it's not the greatest set of cornerbacks in the league. And then you have Devon House, who did sign that 1-year deal last year. Nobody's picked him up yet. So I think at this point it makes sense that Pettine and company go ahead and sign Devon House for 1 more year just to get that veteran leadership.
Yeah, just in case. We need the insurance policy. Who knows how much of a difference these new coaches can make and how quickly with these same players that you just mentioned us keeping.
Yeah, because I mean, even when you have a new coordinator and a new scheme, you might be able to switch around the talent we currently have and play them in different spots. I mean, we talk about Micah Hyde and how Micah Hyde was kind of a poor decision to get rid of him, because he ends up switching from what we had him in as the slot cornerback in the nickel when he should have been a safety the entire time. I mean, you put him in the right spot and play him in the right spot, and his talents end up shining because of that. So if you do that same thing with some of these players, maybe Quentin Rollins isn't an outside guy. Maybe Quentin Rollins is a slot coverage guy. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they mix and match everybody, because you still got the draft coming. There's still a couple cornerbacks that are out there. I think it's just a matter of a wait and see, because the Aaron Rodgers contract is still kind of hanging over everybody's head. They think they're going to give him an extension this year, because that was all the talk last year, that once Kirk Cousins signed, that there was going to basically be a payday for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen pretty quickly. But I know when you're talking that big of money, it's going to take a lot of work. But it would be nice to get that out of the way, so it's no longer a talking point, and we can move on with putting the rest of the pieces in place. Come on, pay Aaron. We know it's going to happen, so just make it happen quickly.
Well, it's interesting when you take a look at how the quarterbacks specifically are falling in the league. I mean, you got the big payday for Kirk Cousins, all that guaranteed money. I mean, it was
crazy.
Huge. Like, was it $86 million?
Something like that. It's just insane. The Vikings basically get rid of all their quarterbacks and bring him in.
Which that blew my mind. Like, here you have Case Keenum, who basically led the Vikings to an almost Super Bowl on their home field. And then you have Bridgewater, who was supposed to be the bright shining star for the last couple of years, just kind of coming back from that injury. And all of a sudden and then Sam Bradford was there too. And it's like clear house. Here we got one guy. Now we got to draft a backup because we got nobody else in the chain.
There might be a reason that the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl.
I wasn't going to say it. You said it before I did.
Beat you to it.
Front office management. Holy cow. It surely will be interesting in the NFC North this year. That's for sure. I mean, the Bears, you have Josh Sitton. They did not pick up his 1-year tenure.
Unbelievable.
So that tenure went by. So gone is Sitton from the NFC North. So that'll be interesting there. And then, of course, the Kyle Fuller that was supposed to be kind of our fill at the cornerback position from the Bears. And the Bears literally, first time I've ever seen the Bears spend a dime. Man, they just whipped out that checkbook and said, no, Packers cannot get Kyle Fuller.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that we'd be able to make that one happen as well.
So all that being aside, we look at everything that's happened so far. Let's talk about Rodgers in this contract. So he's sitting at 34 years old this year. Probably could play into his 40s like Brady if he takes care of himself. I think he said he wants to finish there in Green Bay, but it is a business. So if I were the Packers at this point and looking at where the things are landing, I'm assuming it's a 4 or 5 year deal. Get it done this year. And you're looking somewhere around the neighborhood of probably on average $33 million a year. So what does that end up being? 33 times 5, math on a podcast. Run away as fast as you can.
Like 150 million.
Yeah. 150 million plus, 165 million. I think it comes out to.
Carry the one. Yeah.
And I bet you, I wouldn't be shocked if 100 million of it was guaranteed.
Nothing would shock me either.
It doesn't seem like Packer style because we're very stingy with our cap and our money and all this other stuff. But if you want to lock up Aaron Rodgers, you just pay the man for the next 5 years because he's good for it. He can perform in a high quality still, at least for 3 of the 5, if not all 5. And I think you just got to do that and get it done, lock it up. And then at 39, you make a decision then what you're going to do.
If he is still playing. And we definitely don't want the same thing to happen where maybe he disappears to, the AFC East somewhere for a year and then comes back and joins the Vikings or Bears or something and just destroys the Packers. So that, like Brett Favre did for that first season and a half. So we can't have that happen. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not feeling the heat from Deshaun Kaiser that we got from the Browns. But at the same time, I'm glad we have somebody that could be a good backup after what happened last year.
So we'll put it on record here. 165 million, 5 years. That gets you 33 million a year on average. Makes him the highest paid quarterback, and I guarantee 100 million of it will be guaranteed.
Sounds good to me, Troy. Let's make it happen.
So let's talk trade talks then. Trade talks have been swirling around Martavius Bryant over in Pittsburgh. He's been kind of out there. Even Pittsburgh was trying to shop him around. Now, Martavius would be a nice upgrade for the Packers, but he missed the entire 2016 season for substance abuse. And I know that a lot of people have been talking about trying to make this happen, but he stated his displeasure in his role on the Steelers offense specifically. So the fact that he's talking about how he's unhappy in his role, plus he's also had the substance abuse policy, this sounds like locker room trouble to me. What say you?
It very well could be. I know the Packers try not to have players that have either personality issues or legal issues, locker room issues. Look who we just got rid of because of possible locker room issues. Something's there, but gosh, could he be as good as he was after missing a whole season?
Well, he did play last year, so it's not like he missed 17.
That was 2 seasons. Oh, okay.
Two seasons ago.
Okay.
Right. And he's not bad. And if you think about it, we got rid of Jordy, so we do have a hole at wide receiver. So why not take a chance?
What's the worst that could happen?
We have more wide receivers that we have to get rid of next year.
Well, that's not all that bad.
And you have this conundrum right now because you have 2 great running backs that we ended up nurturing as Montgomery was going through his kind of injury woes. So what happens to Montgomery now? Does Montgomery go back to the wide receiver spot? Does he stay as a running back moving forward? Like, what's that game plan look like there? And then at receiver, you got Adams, who, by the way, Adams was a steal because if you looked at the other wide receiver contracts that happened in free agency, they were all going for $14 million a year for 3 years, or we got Devontae for $14 million for 4 years. So that was a bargain hit. That was pretty good. But you got Devontae, then you got Randall Cobb, I guess, is number 2. And then you have Trevor Davis is still out there. You have Allison, potentially on the free agent side. So you got a lot of good talent still at wide receiver. That it's not the end of the world. So I think we just need a little bit. I think you need a vet. I think you do need to go and get one more vet wide receiver if you're me.
Yeah, because obviously we have Jimmy Graham. He's a tight end. That's totally different. Do you think if he performs up to the level that he was playing when he was with the Saints, even his last year with the Saints, do you think he can take enough pressure off the other wide receivers that maybe we don't need to be as concerned about getting another veteran wide receiver in there?
I think so. I mean, the dude's listed at 6'7". I mean, when was the last time we had a tight end that was 6'7"? That's a big boy.
Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to have any of the quote unquote baggage that Martellus Bennett brought.
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see how the offense opens up because of that. So if you have Jimmy who can stretch the field, and then you have a speedster like Davis or Allison on the outside, you have Adams for the sure hands, and then you have Cobb being the kind of trickster playmaker still. I mean, the offense still seems like it's pretty solid. Offensive line seems to be intact. So the only kind of puzzling thing so far in the offseason, besides the lack of cornerback pickup, is we kept the strength and conditioning coach. I think that would have been one coach you would have turned over in the offseason.
We do have a bit of a mention about that in our listener feedback section.
All right, well, then we won't take away the thunder.
Spoilers.
That one was just my head scratcher for the offseason. Yeah. I was like, why don't we make a change there?
Great minds are thinking alike because someone else wants to address that as well.
And lest we not forget, there is another part of the defense, which is the defensive line and the linebackers. And I think people here were kind of upset during this free agent period, too, about that and how it all broke down. But I think people forget that we have Montravius Adams and Vince Beagle, who didn't play that much last year. I mean, those are two nice speedsters that we should see some production out of. And if they're healthy for most of the season, you take them. Plus, you have Kyler Fackrell still, who's back there. And depending on how things shake out with Quentin Dial and Ahmad Brooks, depending on their contract situations, the defense still seems pretty decent, right? You still got Perry, you got Clay Matthews, you got Mike Daniels. I mean, you still got a pretty good solid core up front who at the start of the season last year looked like they were going to be a really good front seven. So if we can get some speed out of Adams and Beagle, I don't know if we're so hurting in that front seven on defense as previously thought.
Yeah, because the top three things that I would like to see on the field from the Packers next season is Aaron Rodgers protected, no injuries to Aaron. Let's not have that again. Also, stop letting teams throw 15 yards in the center of the field and getting first downs. We shore up that. And if we could get a lot more sacks on the opposing quarterbacks, I'd be a very happy man.
And don't forget, we picked up Muhammad Wilkerson as well.
Oh, definitely. From Jets, right? I think.
Yes.
Counting on him. Muhammad, we are counting on you on the field.
And I think that's going to be the exciting thing there is that if we have that kind of protection on the outside, right, defensive end, and then that'll open up a lane for Beagle to get through potentially. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, how the line comes together. I think the line is pretty solid. We really just need to look at cornerback situation, and I think that's what leads us into the draft.
Oh yeah.
So the first time ever Packers Fan Podcast draft preview, since we always talk after it happens.
There's just so much news we had to crack the mics and put an episode out there because there's just so much going on. We couldn't put it all off. And we do have quite a few picks. I know there's no guarantees in the draft. There's no guarantees anywhere really, but gosh, when was the last time we picked as high as 14th?
Well, when is the last time we had, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 13? The 13 or 14 picks. And the best part about this is that they're all really good middle of the road picks, which are just ripe for being able to trade up potentially. So Packers are going to be picking right now in the 14th spot in the first round. They'll be picking 45th in the second, 76 in the third. Then they get to pick basically, I think they're picking first in the fourth round because of the Kaiser trade from Cleveland. And then we get a compensatory pick at 133. Then we also got the first round pick in the 5th round from Cleveland as part of that trade. And then another compensatory pick at 172 and 174. So we're like boom, boom, back to back. Then we get 186 in the 6th, 207 in the 6th as a compensatory pick, 232 in the 7th, and then 239 we got from Buffalo. So there is a lot of picks here that you can do something with. So I'm gonna go wild here. I'm gonna say Goody is going to trade picks to move up in the draft in the first round.
Do you dare say how far we might try to trade up?
Well, here's what I would do. Given everything that we have, I would take the first round pick, the 3rd round pick, and I would probably take the first pick in the 5th round, number 138 from Cleveland. I would take those 3 picks and I would move all the way up to number 9 or 10 in the first round. So, I mean, again, it sounds weird. Like, I'm going to trade 3 picks to move up 5 spots.
Yeah, will that make that much of a difference?
Well, here's what I'm thinking, because if you look at who is all in the front running of the draft, right, in those first 13 spots, you're talking about Browns, Bills, Broncos, Jets, and everything that I'm looking at right now totally looks like that is all a quarterback run.
Yeah.
Every single one of those teams needs a quarterback, right? And then you have the Broncos, who might change focus, and now Tampa Bay needs a running back because obviously Broncos got Keenum, right, from Minnesota. And so then you have Tampa Bay needs a running back, so they're not going defense, and the Giants are in serious need of an O-line. So when you really think about in the top part of the draft, the only people that would be likely to take a defensive spot are most likely San Francisco, and I think Washington might be also taking a defensive spot. And those are the 2 teams that are sitting at number 9 and number 13. So you could go maybe to 12, but at the same time, I think you'd want to jump all the way to 9, because it looks like if you take a stab at who's out there, you got the Ohio State cornerback, right, Denzel Ward, or you have the Florida State safety, Derwin James. Like, those would be the 2 guys I would target. And then, of course, with the Morgan Burnett situation happening now with Pittsburgh, Derwin James might actually come into play bigger potentially than we thought might have happened before. I think I'd still probably go Denzel Ward personally. And I think Ward would actually go to Washington at 13. So maybe you don't need to move all the way up to 9, but Washington is 1 spot ahead of us. So do you take the gamble and see if it'll fall? Or do you hope that you could take Ward at 14 and keep all your picks? I don't know. I think with the amount of picks we have, I think we're in good shape with the free agency so far, that I would just trade the picks and move up to 9 and get the guy you absolutely need.
And still, that sounds more conservative than I was thinking. We do have some good running backs we've been grooming, but how awesome would it be if we could trade all the way up to like 3 or 4 and snag that hot shot running back that everybody wants?
Yeah, I don't know why people want a running back. I don't understand that concept. I've seen that chatter, and I just keep scratching my head. I'm like, we have 2 decent running backs, plus we still don't know what Ty Montgomery can do at running back when he's fully healthy. I mean, he was a stud for the couple of times he was in there. I mean, you're talking 5 yards of carry. We don't need a running back. We just don't.
Okay, you talked me off the ledge.
What you do need, though, is I think one more offensive line person. So since you're not trading away your 2nd round pick, I think we take, either Ward or Derwin James in the 1st round, and then we take an offensive line in the 2nd round. We pick up a receiver to kind of round out the receiver core in the 4th round, and then with our other 4th round pick, we pick up a D-line person, and then the rest of it is just all the future prospect, diamond in the rough type stuff. But I think that's what the Packers should do. Definitely move up to number 9. Take the defensive person they need, O-line in 2, receiver and D-line in the 4th.
Because I know, like you said, how is it Washington would be 1 pick ahead of us? We remember last year how we moved down just a couple spots and we lost out on TJ Watt.
Exactly right.
That was a head scratcher. So, but it's all in the past. We can't change the past. I like how this is looking.
Yeah, but what we can change before we get into all of your listener thoughts, we can change how you listen to the Packers Fan Podcast.
Believe it or not, in addition to the recent news, which happened around the time of our last episode, where we are now available in Spotify. So if you know friends that listen to music in Spotify, be sure to let them know that the Packers Fan Podcast is there as well. But also, we are one of the first 40 podcasts hosted through Libsyn that now has an official Alexa skill for the Packers Fan Podcast. So if you've got one of those Amazon devices, you just have to enable it, which is kind of like subscribing. And it's only in the US right now, coming to Canada maybe by next month, and then rolling out to other countries shortly after that. But go and just basically say, Alexa, enable Packers Fan Podcast. Then anytime you can say, Alexa, play Packers Fan Podcast. You can even skip forward, skip back, and things like that. And you can even leave a review for the Packers Fan Podcast directly through the Alexa app on your smartphones as well. So we're excited to be one of the first that got approved to be part of that. So, we know that that's a small part of the podcasting market, but, if you've got one of those devices, one of those Amazon devices in your kitchen, your living room, and you just want to hear the show while you're there, or even part of the show, go for it. And go, Pack, go.
That's amazing if you think about it, right? Sunday morning, get up, get your breakfast before you're prepping to go to church or whatever you end up doing on Sunday morning. But it's great just to be having a cup of coffee and be like, hey, Shlomo, play the Packers Fan Podcast. And then it'll remember where you left off. So if you do have to run to church, you come on back and say, hey, resume playing the Packers Fan Podcast. And then you get to finish it right before the game starts at noon. So that's totally awesome. And the best part is I love the review feature too. Hey, leave a review for the Packers Fan Podcast. Tell Wayne and Troy I said hi.
All those things. And who knows what they'll be adding in the future. So it's a fun new thing. It's the wave of the future. It's just another way to listen to the show. And we're pretty excited to be part of that. And of course, in April, we've got the schedule coming out and the draft, and we'll have a new episode talking about all that good stuff as well. So be ready.
And the best part about it is that voices of the fans, the G-Force themselves, will be able to be heard on Spotify and Alexa for the new season. And we got a lot of great people chiming in for this pre-draft episode.
Absolutely, because you can always just call 920-3PACK-GO. Again, 920-3PACK-GO, or go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to leave your feedback. And let's start off with some feedback right here in the Southwest with Rod in Texas.
This is Rod from Texas, originally from Wisconsin. I feel strange that Jordy's no longer with the team, but I do wish him the best in Oakland. I don't understand why people are so upset that he went to Oakland. I totally understand the GM's reasoning for letting him go. I know, there comes a time where it is time to move on. And the fact that he is being this aggressive in free agency is a very positive thing, and you just have to take the good with the bad. I think Rodgers is going to have a great year as long as he stays healthy. He's got an awesome tight end in Jimmy Graham. We finally got a really good pass rusher in Muhammad Wilkinson. Hopefully he follows through on how good he is. I'm very optimistic about this year, and I'm hoping to see another Packers Super Bowl victory. Go Pack, go.
Rod, you and me both. I mean, how cool would it be to have Goody come in, take over the reins, first year, put a Super Bowl team together? I mean, that's like amazing story if that could happen. But it's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough.
It's going to be tough, but it's definitely doable. And although the Raiders aren't anywhere near one of my favorite teams, I am just so thankful Jordy Nelson did not end up with the Seahawks, the Niners, or the Pats.
Or the Bears, or the Lions.
So, yeah, he's in the AFC. He's with a bunch of other former Packers people. It'll be kind of like family. And I believe in the 2019 season is when we play the Raiders. We just don't know yet if that would be in Oakland or in Green Bay.
Well, and the question is, with the Packers yet not performing at such high caliber last year, does that mean we're going to get less primetime games, which means we can actually have more football on Sunday now because we'll be watching Packers at noon and Raiders at 3:30?
That's one way to look at it.
Glass half full, Wayne. Glass half full.
I'm looking at it as, once we get on a rolling through the first half of the 2018 season and games start getting flexed to Sunday night and things, who knows? Maybe the Packers at Rams could be in LA on a Sunday night football game.
Let's call it now. Raiders, Packers, Super Bowl. Make it happen.
Could you imagine the storylines with all the former Green Bay personnel over there? Amazing.
So fun.
Hey, Wayne and Troy, this is Rick from Wisconsin calling, and even though I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, I do follow the news and see what the Packers are doing. I was shocked to hear they were letting Jordy Nelson go, but then when they signed Jimmy Graham, I thought, well, a great tight end has always been good for Green Bay. It should up their game a little, and they usually have a pretty deep roster of wide receivers, and since I had him on my fantasy team last year, I know that Jordy didn't do as well as he had done some previous years, and a lot of times in the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately, right? So looks to me like they've made some good moves, and fortunately this season Carolina doesn't have to play them until both teams are in the playoffs, so we'll see you then. Thanks. Bye.
Rick, thanks again for your call. Giving us a call at 920-3PACK-GO. Even Carolina Panthers fans are shocked and stunned at Jordy Nelson moving to the Raiders. But you can still play him on your fantasy team, and that way he doesn't have to change teams.
And he's going to be putting up some big numbers because you got Derek Carr back throwing to him, too.
Yeah, if Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers both bounce back to how they were the year before, I could see a Packers-Raiders Super Bowl. In fact, I think that's what I predicted over a year ago, and then just chaos happened for both teams, and yeah.
I'm just glad we don't have to play the Panthers.
Yeah, that was a good point, Rick. We're pretty excited about that as well. I don't know why we always have to play the Seahawks, but no Panthers, and I don't believe Cowboys. And so we don't play those two silver helmeted teams until the playoffs if they make it. Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for Wayne and Troy for having me call in. We've had some big moves on our team, and here's my thoughts on them. To get started with, of course, the release of wide receiver Jordy Nelson. Big fan favorite guy, but at first I was shocked about it, upset a little bit. But I thought about it, and it's not that bad, really. We still have, Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, Trevor Davis, a few other guys, and possibly even Geronimo Allison at wide receiver. Plus we have Ty Montgomery, in the backfield officially as a running back right now, but he's a multi-position player who converted from wide receiver, so he's going to be a receiver threat anyway, in my opinion. So I'm okay with it. I think that what we lose with him, we can replace easily, and we kind of already have. The signing of Muhammad Wilkerson and Herb Waters, let's get to that real fast. Muhammad Wilkerson now brings an amazing front three for us. That's going to be huge. He's a big locker room personality, The trade of cornerback Demarius Randall, some draft picks to the Browns for Deshaun Kaiser and some draft picks. Trade was a bit strange to me at first, but in the long run, I think it's really good, actually. We get rid of Demarius Randall, who kind of has some locker room issues. In turn, we get a starting caliber quarterback in Kaiser who can sit behind Aaron and learn from him. I think the signing of Jimmy Graham's going to be huge for us. He's going to be a huge part of our offense. I think that Aaron plays his best when he has a tight end option. Now he's got a couple of them, but a huge option here with Graham. I've wanted us to get Graham for years now. So for us to finally pick him up, I think is great. I think he's a huge threat and a great weapon for our arsenal on offense. I think really Graham might be that missing piece that we've been looking for a couple seasons now. So overall, I think we've done good. We got rid of Jordy, yes, but we have good replacements already for him. We signed some key players on defense, got rid of a locker room problem, got a guy that is going to be a great backup quarterback and have great trade value, and I think we're going to have a good season. My predictions for this season are that we're going to do big things. Our whole team has something to prove this year, so I think they'll be playing with a little chip on their shoulder, and teams play great with that attitude. I see us going probably 12-4, if not better. and we're going to for sure make playoffs. Guess I didn't mention at the beginning, but this is Nathan from Arizona. Thanks for letting me call in, and as always, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go indeed, Nathan. Thanks so much for calling in. Lots of great thoughts there. The big one I think that I'll call out is you're absolutely right on Jimmy Graham being the missing piece. I mean, when you think about Jermichael Finley and you go back to the Super Bowl season, I mean, he only played 5 games that year and had 1 touchdown. But when you think about the 15-1 season, I mean, all 16 games, 55 catches, 767 yards with 8 tutties and a 13.9 receiving average. So definitely, I think the tight end position was a key factor in how we performed in that 15-1 season. So I'm super excited for Jimmy to be on the team specifically because it definitely gives Rodgers another throwing option than just having to throw to the 2 wideouts.
Exactly. Jimmy could just go into the end zone and stand there, tower above everybody. Oh, thanks. Touchdown.
Yeah, and then the 2 draft picks, obviously, I think that trade does 2 things. One, obviously, 3 things. It clears up the locker room issue. It gives us a solid backup because we saw what happened last year. And then more importantly, the draft picks give us a chance to move up to potentially get a defensive rookie that we might want.
Yeah, that was a good point, Nathan. And what's funny is even after the Browns gave us those 2 draft picks, I think they still have like 50 or something like that.
They're more like an expansion draft team. They just get to pick 1 from everybody, and they still probably will go 1 in 15.
Oh, I don't know. They've got to get good one of these years. And yeah, definitely the Packers are going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. Hopefully Wilkerson is a big locker room personality, like you said, in a good way. And Nathan laying it down even before the full schedule comes out of when and where we play, saying 12-4 or better.
Yeah, talk about that ticket price hike. Let me tell you, I don't even know which games I have, and I have to pay for my tickets already for the gold package. And I'm like, man, like really $4, and you won't even tell me who I'm playing yet. Make that schedule come out earlier.
Yeah, you would think they'd be able to get the schedule out by March 1st every year. I mean, I know a lot goes into it, but really?
We land usually on the gold package on getting an AFC team at game 2 and then end up with like a division opponent for game 5. And it's been the Lions and the Bears. It's been a long time since the Vikings come. So my hope would be, I was really disappointed to see that we're playing the Patriots away because I was hoping the Patriots were going to be coming to Lambeau Field. But I bet you we end up with the Dolphins, who also look like they're going to be a formidable opponent. I mean, hello, Josh Sitton coming back would be kind of interesting. So hopefully we can get the Dolphins for game 2 and then end up with the Vikings for game 5. That would be nice.
And game 2, there's probably a 80% chance it'll be a night game.
Or a Thursday game.
Yeah, based on past performance.
Yeah, maybe we play the Falcons. I mean, I can't believe we have to play the Falcons yet again. It's like the new nemesis. The bird teams. I just hate the bird. I hate all the birds.
I know. We always play the bird teams. We're just going to have to brush them aside. And of course, if the Eagles can beat the Patriots, we can beat the Patriots.
And by the way, we added the Cardinals this year to the schedule, so bring the birds on. Good Lord.
Why are there so many bird teams?
I mean, he said 12-4 looking at the schedule. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would go 11-5 and still win the North.
Oh, definitely win the North. The only reason the Vikings were in the mix last year is because they broke our quarterback and karma came back to get them. Oh, yeah. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I'll call it 11-5 right now, pre-draft. But we'll lock in our official thoughts during training camp in July. So right now, my early prediction is 11-5.
Yeah, because a lot of things that go into those games, like playing the Patriots, it could be a totally different outcome whether we play them in the first 2 weeks in Foxborough or in the last 2 weeks of December in Foxborough. If they still have a shot at the playoffs, I think personally the Patriots runs over. We don't have to worry about them anymore.
I think they were exposed last year.
Yeah.
Even though they did make it all the way to the Super Bowl, I think the exposure was there and the cracks are showing, and this is the year they fall apart.
That'd be too bad. So I look at it, just looking on the surface, I don't see any reason that we cannot win every one of these games. Every one of these games is winnable.
8 years in a row, people. 8 years in a row.
Now, wait a minute. I mean, the scariest game on the entire schedule for me is actually the Packers at Rams. I mean, look at the way they are loading up. Their defense is going to be a beast. Aqib Talib, possibly bringing in Ndamukong Suh, and in addition to the other great defensive players they already had.
I totally forgot that I have to get my airline tickets.
Once we find out when it's going to be. Maybe it's a week one opener. Who knows?
Oh, that would not be good. I don't have funds by week one. Because I was just there.
Let's go. My dream would be Sunday night, first weekend in December.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I'm all for heading out that way. Post Thanksgiving would be fantastic.
There you go. We wait and see.
All right. Well, we had an email from Caleb and Rory Fisher. First off, we would love to say that we're happy it's almost Packer season once again. Few things that we'd love to say is that although we love Jordy Nelson, we also picked up some great players in Jimmy Graham and Wilkerson. One thing that was really disappointing was when Coach McCarthy, keeping the conditioning coach, did we not learn anything from this past year? Or the year before? Well, until the season starts, go Pack go, bleed green and gold till we're dead and cold. Caleb and Rory, I think they're still in Oconto Falls, Wisconsin.
Roy.
Sorry, Roy. My bad. I was talking to a Rory the other day about Packer stuff.
There's Packers fans everywhere. And yeah, the bleeding green and gold is hopefully just what's in our veins, and it stays in our bodies and inside the Packers' bodies. No injuries this year. And you touched on it earlier, Troy. You wanted to bring up this conditioning coach. How on earth did that person save their job?
Out of all the people, I mean, you saw how the clip from when Rodgers was talking to Golick. I think it was at the Super Bowl maybe, or one of the playoff games when he was talking about the quarterback's coach getting not let go. They gave him the opportunity to search for other jobs, but how Aaron kind of wasn't really consulted about it. So it's like you let that guy go, but you keep the strength and conditioning coach. I'm just flabbergasted, to be quite honest.
Now, is there a chance that all of these injuries are just our unfortunate lot as far as the Packers go? Maybe we are strengthened and conditioned as well as possible.
1 year, I would agree with you. 3 years in a row, no.
Okay. But
something's weird. Something's weird.
I still think part of it is also, like you said, the whole agreement with the players' union and the short preseason and the short camp and all that stuff.
I agree. The less rehearsals that they go through now just means their bodies aren't ready for prime time like they used to be in the past. Or it could just be all the nuts they slip on because of the Lambo squirrel.
I love that Lambo squirrel. Squirrel. I just have a feeling everything's going to be different this year, even with the same strength and conditioning coach. There's like a breath of fresh air. Sure, we lost Jordy and some other players, but it seems like a whole new culture is starting to take place. We won't know till the games actually start, but I have so much hope and optimism. I'm such a fanboy that I just think big things are going to happen.
We're driving in alive at 1265.
Ooh, I love poetry like that. That's good stuff. Also got an email from Steven. Troy and Wayne. Steven checking in for Palos Park, Illinois, home of the rival Chicago Bears. And of course, start with more recent news. I'm sure it's a surprise to all Packers fans that the Green Bay Packers released Jordy Nelson. When you look back to last September, we would never have believed that this past season would be Jordy Nelson's final season as a Green Bay Packer. I just want to cut in there. Absolutely. If you would have asked us that a year ago, I can't believe any Packers fan would have thought that.
No, last year I would have said the same thing. I would have said Jordy comes back for another year and he takes a pay cut and he becomes the Donald Driver. He becomes the stalwart.
Yes.
Take it to the end. So Aaron Rodgers always has a surefire check down option as he's trying to find Graham streaking down the sidelines.
I guess that's one of the dangers of getting a new general manager. Stephen continues, at some point, Jordy Nelson will have to retire, and wouldn't it be great if the Packers sign him to a one-day contract for him to be able to retire as a Green Bay Packer?
I agree that'll exactly happen.
Yeah, I think that's probably a 99.99% foregone conclusion. Retire in the green and gold. And of course, how can I not make mention of former general manager taking over as senior advisor of football operations and Brian Gutekunst as the new general manager of the Green Bay Packers? I sure can't wait for our 2018 schedule to come out and also to see who the new players are that we're going to draft. In the meantime, I'll see you all in the Facebook group with any more off-season moves that come along that haven't been talked about on this podcast. Stephen Verheeren, and please forgive me if I mispronounced your last name, but we thank you so much for your email and your contributions to the Facebook group at packerscommunity.com. Lots of great conversations going on there. And at the rate the Packers changes are happening, I would not be surprised if one or two more big shoes drop in the coming weeks.
And I'll be excited for the schedule to come out too, because I already paid my $1,000 plus for my 9 seats to not know who I'm playing against.
Well, you're pretty sure that you're not going to be playing against the XFL and that other brand new American Football League that was just announced like yesterday.
Yeah, they're playing the Spring League. There's like 2 teams that are playing 2 games down in Austin, Texas. I wonder if that was just because everybody's down there for the South by Southwest festivities, and there's like, let's just throw 2 football games in the mix down here just to see how people are moving along.
Well, I think they said more cities and teams will be announced soon. And then, of course, a year from now, the XFL is going to try to make another comeback. It's a lot of football, so I have a feeling your tickets will include games against NFL teams.
Yes.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
The Spring League would be interesting, though, to see how the Johnny Manziel comeback story kicks off, because Johnny will be part of the Spring League.
I still miss the USFL and NFL Europe.
I miss NFL Europe a lot. I loved NFL Europe growing up.
So I'm going to definitely be at least tuning in to check it all out. Now, trying to get back in the swing with the new football season, we had a new Twitter and Facebook community poll. And basically, of all the Packers off-season moves so far, which one do you think will make the biggest difference once the season kicks off? And we also said, feel free to add an option if your choice isn't listed. Wow. Defensive coordinator Mike Pettine demolished with the votes. 59% of everybody that voted said that Mike Pettine's defensive coordinator is going to be the biggest difference when the season kicks off.
Now, is that because they really like Mike Pettine, or they just really hated Tom Capers?
Oh, Troy, you went there. I don't think he got many sympathy votes just because he's the new DC.
Hey, I gave my sympathy vote, that's for sure.
I didn't even think of that. Coming in at second place, General Manager Brian Gutekunst got the votes for making the biggest difference, and followed closely at 15% with Jimmy Graham, and then at 10%, Muhammad Wilkerson, and we did have a write-in vote in the Facebook community for Joe Philbin.
Joe is an interesting one. We didn't get to talk about him at all. I completely forgot that he was back, and he was also part of that awesome demolishing monstrosity 15-1 season. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for that to happen.
I think it would definitely be exciting to watch on TV if he's the reason that we are a lot better this coming season.
I mean, if you think Joe coming back plus the tight end, that's kind of like Jermichael Finley, plus we get a couple fast guys on the outside. I mean, we could see those. You remember when it used to be a touchdown every 5 minutes?
Those were the days.
Oh man, so awesome. Like, I could totally see that happening.
It's like the season that I came up to Lambeau Field and joined you for the Bears at Packers game, when it was about a touchdown every 5 minutes, as well as a sack of Jay Cutler every 7 minutes. And
that was the game, correct me if I'm wrong, that we actually left at, what was it, at the start of the fourth quarter and made it back to Appleton for the 2-minute warning. We're just up by so much. We were like, okay, let's get ahead of the traffic.
And who would have thought there'd be so much traffic in Wisconsin? Yeah, I'm so used to the LA traffic. I thought nobody else could possibly have traffic. I was wrong.
True.
I was wrong. And regarding the poll, Kim in Texas commented, It's so difficult to choose. Lots of changes happening. So basically, Kim could not pick just one because so much is happening so fast and furious. It's amazing. So be sure to check out even more conversations happening in our Facebook group. Link directly at packerscommunity.com is the easiest way to find us, unless you want to search Packers Fan Podcast Groups on Facebook. Troy, even in the off season, MVPs are still happening for the Packers Fan Podcast. Tell us who's in the running.
Well, we got a new $4 pledge, actually, after the season was over, dedicated to lifelong Packer backer Randy Westgame of Wausau. So really thank everyone that made that possible. So, Randy, your $4 contribution will live on in Packers infamy, just like the gunslinger himself, Mr. Brett Favre. Also supporting at that Brett Favre $4 monthly level are the Texas-only Green Bay Packers fanatics, because they never give up and they support all season long. Also, Bryant is in there and Jeff Summerfield as well. We thank you guys so much for helping out make the Packers Fan Podcast even better.
And go Pack Go to the Curly Lambeau $1 monthly supporters, Velvet Eau Claire and Aaron Peterson. Thank you so much for helping make the show even better.
You too can make the Packers Fan Podcast even better in this 2018 football season by going over to patreon.com. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast. It helps us grow the show, bring more great content each and every week. Plus, you guys get rewards too. Remember, you can still go to a game with me as long as you subscribe based on this episode for that 92 Reggie White level. Again, I just told you I bought the tickets. I have them in my hand. So make sure that you go ahead and get to that 92 Reggie White level if you want to go to a game this year. And if not, some of the other rewards that are out there potentially would be to be on the show with us and talk Packers football. That'd be pretty awesome. You could also say the Go Pack Go at the end of the episode at the $12 level, the Aaron Rodgers level. And then you might even get a FaceTime call or a Skype call so you could see Lambeau Field live from one of the two games this year. So all great levels that you can check out. PackersFanPodcast.com/support would also get you there. So all you have to remember is /support and go ahead and give in your Patreon contribution.
Amazing stuff. Thank you in advance. Also, we got a brand new iTunes review since we last spoke. This one we found in the Mexico iTunes store from longtime listener Monty Bolas. I will go with the Google Translate for her very nice iTunes review, 5-star review, titled For Each Game. And the text of Monty's review was, Troy and Wayne analyze the weekly games and news related to the Packers. Very entertaining. And if I had guts, I would have tried to have read the Spanish, but I can't even barely speak English. So thank you so much for that iTunes review. It helps us out and fun to see that come in all the way from Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are going to wrap up the fun here at the Packers Fan Podcast. The schedule release is coming. It usually comes about the third week of April, right before the draft. And then the draft is April 26th through April 28th down in Texas at the Cowboys Stadium. So it's going to be an exciting time. Can't wait to see what happens. Maybe the Cinderella year for Goody will continue as he potentially moves up in the draft. We'll have to wait and see. But until then, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, we would love for that to happen. We're going on 8 years strong here at the Packers Fan Podcast. So just let them know to email us at media@PackersFanPodcast.com.
And you can always listen to us on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast app. We've got one for iOS and one for Android. And follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. Oh, go ahead, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Wayne Henderson.
Hey, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I'm at Troy Heinrichs. You can also join the Packers Fan Podcast community. You hear us talking about it during all that great G-Force feedback. It's over at PackersFanPodcast.com/community, or as Wayne said, PackersCommunity.com. We'll get you there also to join in on the conversations.
And of course, we will be back, like Troy said, regarding the draft and the schedule release. But you don't have to wait till then and wait to be prompted to send in your feedback. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get in your thoughts anytime, and we will play them on the next episode of the podcast. So for now, we just want to thank you for listening to this episode of your Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, subscribe in Spotify, and even enable that Alexa skill by just saying, hey, enable Packers Fan Podcast, so you don't miss an episode here all through the 2018 season. We're going to be back again after the draft with a giant G-force feedback, I am sure, as we get hyped and we get excited for the draft. We're going to cheer along with everybody. Say it now really loud. Go Pack, go!